Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 158 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
I was doing well.
Are you?
Yeah.
I had speaking of that cracked me up. But we had somebody send a message about their Patreon that said, "Can you please get Gibby to try to say my name in his Italian Chef Boyardee accent? Actually use the words Chef Boyardee."
That's very flattering.
Okay.
Because Chef Boyardee, he was very famous Italian.
That thing is all over the map, dude.
It's been a while.
Some of that was just straight Ohio.
Yeah, just straight, yeah.
Some of it was a little bit French, I think.
It was just straight. Yeah, I've been kind of diving into a little French there. Yeah.
You have been. Not well, but you have been.
Is any of it well? No.
So how you been, man?
I'm good. Doing my thing.
Yeah, that's all we can do, right? I don't want to spend a lot of time dwelling on it, but we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
You know, everybody is trying to stay safe, hunker down, make sure they got enough TP, groceries. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's horrible, but all we can do is make it through and try to stay as safe as possible.
I've been eating in every day, all my meals.
Which is not like you.
No.
Which is not like you. I know you like to go to places and sit, soak in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So that has to be tough for you.
It is tough, you know. Well, I live by myself, so.
And that has to be tough too.
Yeah.
Because I know what it's like working at home when my wife's at work, both my kids are at school. Pretty much all day, every day, I'm here by myself.
Yeah.
Now, I get to see them at night. But now that everybody's home, I'm seeing them 24/7. It's actually been good as far as family time.
Right. Yeah.
It's not good, everything else that's going on.
No.
But I can imagine that it's been tough on you.
A little bit, you know.
Good thing you're the king of social media. You got that.
I've got that down. Yeah.
All right, Gibbs, we have our new supporter shout outs. Let's do those. Let's start with Patreon. We had Lucy Price.
Hey, Lucy.
Lisa Davies.
What's going on, Lisa?
Star Rodriguez Moser.
Hey, SRM.
Dave Barsati.
Hey, Bassati.
Patrick Dross.
What's going on, Dross?
Stacy Kuberly.
Hey, Stacy.
Kim Lawson.
What's going on, Kim?
Justin Maloney.
Hey, Maloney.
Jared Loylis.
What's going on, Loylis?
Lisa Elliott St. Clair.
Oh, look at that name, St. Clair.
Maybrit Peterson.
What's going on, Maybrit?
Ryan Robert.
Hey, Ryan.
And Robert.
And Robert.
Jennifer Wilkening.
Hey, Jennifer.
Tanya Abordo.
Ooh, Aborto.
Lacey Russell.
What's going on, Lacey?
Tanya Wood.
Hey, thanks, Tanya.
Gabby McCarty.
What's going on, Gabby?
Erica Williams.
Hey, Erica.
Sherry Almondi.
Ooh, Almonde.
And Sydney Wallace.
What's going on, Sydney?
So appreciate all the new support. And then if we go back into the vault, Gibbs, this week we selected Laura Richards.
Well, thank you, Laura.
Yeah. Very big supporter of the show. We appreciate that. We had some PayPal support as well. We had Mary Ashley.
Hey, Mary.
Kathy Snyder.
What's going on, Kathy?
Melissa Buell.
Hey, thanks, Melissa.
Candace Zugich.
Hey, Candace.
And Geraldine Jensen.
Appreciate that, Geraldine.
All right, Gibbs. So right now we have a brand new episode out on TCAT. It's on Arthur Gary Bishop.
Real sicko, man.
Yeah. Sick, twisted, just lower than low.
Yeah.
We're out in the Salt Lake City, Utah area. This was a guy that murdered 5 boys, but, exploited and preyed on many, many more.
Right.
He had a lot of victims.
He did. He was a real sicko.
So check that episode out. All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I am.
We're talking about the mysterious death of Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston was one of the best boxers of his era. He was also one of the most controversial boxers. He was a professional boxer in the 50s, 60s, and really all the way up to his death in 1970.
Yeah.
He was prolific. He won 54 out of 58 bouts in the ring. At one point in his career, he was the heavyweight champion of the world.
That's saying something.
It is, especially when you're in an era that includes Muhammad Ali, George Foreman,
Yeah.
There were some really good heavyweights during the time that Sonny Liston fought. Charles Sonny Liston was born either on July 22nd, 1930 or May 8th, 1932.
Pretty good gap there.
It is. You know, when you look at different articles, books, you get different dates.
Yeah.
But these are the two most commonly used dates. I've never really seen it where there were so many different places that had one or the other.
Yeah.
What I normally find is there will be newspaper articles that have the wrong date, but you'll find 5 or 6 others that have the right one. This one, it was split between these two dates for some reason.
Yeah. Every now and then you'd see one date that didn't even match. You're like, where'd you even get that from? So
I just made it up.
yeah, they just split the difference.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Well, I know I've said this to you before. I never realized before you and I started doing the massive amounts of research that we do that, you know what, newspaper articles are quite often wrong
Yeah.
with their facts.
Scary sometimes.
And you would think that there would be more fact checking and I'm not even talking the Podunk Times. There are big papers that get facts wrong. And it's not facts that later come out to be different. It's on the same day, one paper has this and another paper has that.
It's like they rushed to get the story out. And maybe should have.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Sonny was born to Toby and Helen Liston. Toby was 45 years old at the time that Sonny was born. Helen was only 16.
Yeah. And that wasn't her first child.
He was born in Johnstown Township, Arkansas. So it wasn't her first child, but let's be honest, Gibbs. Back then, women had kids earlier.
Yeah, they apparently a lot earlier.
Well, I know my family in Kentucky. Now, Kentucky might not be the best barometer to use, but...
Hey, now, my family came from Kentucky.
Well,
why you got to be like that?
Then we're in the same boat.
Okay.
Sonny had a big family because his dad had been married before. So between the two marriages, Sonny had 25 siblings.
Can you imagine?
That is a lot.
That is a lot.
And he was the second youngest of the 25.
And no wonder he's a good fighter. He had to fight for those scraps of food, man. You want to eat? Go at it.
You better know how to put up your dukes.
Yeah.
But Sonny's dad was an alcoholic, and he was extremely abusive to the family. The Liston family worked the cotton fields at the Moorledge plantation, and Gibbs, they worked from sun up to sundown every single day.
Yeah, there was no rest.
In the early 1940s, Sonny's mother realized that she didn't want to put up with her husband's abuse anymore, and she left for St. Louis, Missouri. She took some of the kids with her, but Sonny decided to stay, and he wanted to try to stick it out, but he only did so for another year because I think in that next year, Gibbs, he realized the same thing. He was tired of taking the beatings that his dad doled out. I mean, we're talking beatings with leather straps on a routine basis.
Well, and his mom was no longer there to take some of the front of it for him. So,
and some of his siblings were gone as well.
Yeah.
I mean, these beatings were so bad that Sonny Liston had scars for the rest of his life that he received from his father. Sonny would tell people later when asked about his dad, the only thing my old man gave me was a beating.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad, man.
If that's the only thing you have to say about your dad, that's the only thing he had to say about his dad.
Yeah. I mean, that's your legacy. That's the way you want to be remembered. Not that, oh, I got my work ethic from my dad. I got my, you name it. No. All I got was a beating.
Yeah.
At 13 years old, Sonny was able to make some extra cash to buy a bus ticket. And that's when he left for St. Louis to meet up with his mother and some of his siblings. When he got to St. Louis, he tried going to school, but there was a problem. He couldn't read very well. And so he decided that, okay, I'm going to try to make some money instead of going to school to help the family. But it's kind of hard for a lot of kids to find any type of real paying job at 14. So instead, he joined a local gang. And basically, he terrorized and mugged people on the streets of St. Louis to make money.
Yeah, it was easy. It was easy for him to do that.
Well, he was big.
Yeah. And he was a tough guy.
He was tough, sure.
I mean, he at a young age, he learned how to take pain. So he could scrap with about anybody if he had to.
His victims didn't know who he was, but they would tell police about his size. He was a big guy. And the fact that he wore a yellow shirt. So police were hearing this a lot. A really big guy wearing a yellow shirt was beating the hell out of people and taking their money.
If that was today, they'd be looking for Bumblebee.
Because for some reason, he wore this yellow shirt a lot.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, this was his, might have been his only shirt, as far as I know.
And it could have
back
been.
Then.
So this went on for several years, right? Being a criminal, running with a gang. Sonny was arrested in 1950. And at that point, Gibbs, he was what? Either 20 or 22. We don't know.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
But he's somewhere in that neighborhood. He was sentenced to 5 years and was sent to the Missouri State Prison on June 1st, 1950. Later in life, Sonny said, you know what? He didn't mind being in prison. He didn't have to crack people in the head anymore to make money. He was getting 3 meals a day, every day, something he may not have ever gotten in his life.
No, I don't think he did. So I think that's one of the reasons he was okay with that. You know, like you always say, you know, what's that saying?
3 hots in a cot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was happy to have all that.
Well, when you don't have that, okay, yeah, you're in prison, but your belly's not growling all the time. You have a place to sleep. It's not the Ritz, but
it's probably warm.
While he was in prison, a local priest ran an athletic department inside there, and I think he sized Sonny up and saw him as a powerful guy. You know, this guy's like a street brawler. He could probably be a good boxer.
Yeah, if you give him some technique, maybe.
Yeah, with the right tools and technique. So he got Sonny to start taking some real boxing lessons. And I mean, really quickly, Sonny took to it and he started to excel. And Sonny was a good prisoner. And because of that, he got an early release on October 31st, 1952. And once he got out of prison, he went to the gym with the goal of becoming a solid boxer. And he did. And he did it very quickly. On March 6, 1953, he won the Chicago Golden Gloves by beating an Olympic gold medalist.
That's impressive, man.
He has been out of prison for what? Not even 6 months, or right around 5-6 months.
Yeah.
And to win the Golden Gloves is a feat by itself.
Sure.
To win it in Chicago or a big city, that's not Dayton.
No.
You're not winning it in Dayton, Ohio. And so add on top of that the fact that you beat an Olympic gold medalist. All right, you got something. Yeah. You know you have something. So from there, he went to New York City and he won the Golden Gloves there too. The same month.
He's got to be feeling good, knocking people out, man.
Well, and you have to knock people out to have that many fights in the same month. You can't be taking a bunch of punishment and just keep fighting day after day. Yeah. It doesn't work that way. But if you're knocking everybody out and you're doing it fairly quickly, yeah, you can keep fighting. He did some other things in the amateur arena. He did the U.S. Nationals, the International Golden Gloves Championship, and he excelled at both of those as well. He built a reputation very quickly as a very hard and powerful puncher. That's the thing about Sonny Liston.
Yeah.
He could knock anyone out with the right punch, with one punch.
I think that's why so many boxers were afraid of being in the ring with him.
Yeah. I'm afraid thinking about it right now.
You probably are. You look like you are.
You think back to a 19, 20-year-old Mike Tyson and having to get into the ring with Mike Tyson? No, thank you.
And it's funny you bring that up because they say some of the people that have always been in that industry that knew him when they were young and came up and sparred with him, and they say that they'd rather fight Tyson than fight this guy.
I don't doubt it.
And you know how hard Tyson can.
Yeah,
can
Sonny Liston was a beast.
Yeah,
of a boxer. There's no doubt about it.
Tyson punch you so hard your ear comes off. So
after he bites it. It was around this same time that Sonny met a man named John Vitale, who ran the local cement union. Well, he also happened to run the local mob.
Kind of probably went hand in hand back in those days.
Well, construction, cement, mob. It kind of works well because didn't they put people in cement?
I think they did a lot, Jimmy.
Kind of helped if you already had cement.
Right.
Johnny put Sonny on his payroll for $25 a week and gave him his union card. He basically was John's muscle. So if John needed something done, I mean, someone intimidated, someone beat up, he would ask Sonny to take care of it.
For $25 a week, which I'm guessing was okay pay back then.
I'm sure it was actually pretty good money.
You imagine working for $25 a week?
Well, not today.
Well, I know, I'm just saying.
But in the 1950s, a steak didn't cost $25. So on September 3rd, 1957, Sonny married Geraldine Chambers. And when he did, he became the stepdad to her daughter from a previous marriage. They later adopted a Swedish boy and eventually had quite a number of children of their own.
Yeah, I don't think they ever hit the numbers like his dad and mom.
He wasn't as prolific as his dad.
Yeah.
But few men ever have been. 25 is a hell of a number.
It's like your couple basketball teams or football teams. Or
I was going to say that's 5 basketball teams.
Yeah, you got the whole county covered.
It's almost a whole league.
Somebody on your family's always winning the championship.
I should say it's 5 starting fives. It's not 5 full basketball teams, but you know what I mean.
We got you. Yeah.
I don't want anybody to think I'm dumb about basketball. You know, Gibbs.
Well, they all know you're a Kentucky fan. So
that's true.
They know where you stand with your basketball.
Geraldine has said that Sonny was a good father and he was a good husband as well, but he did have a drinking problem. But even despite that, he was not an abusive guy like his dad.
Which was good because his dad was brutal. Very brutal.
And Gibbs, by the time Sonny married Geraldine, his professional boxing career had really started to take off. He was known for his solid footwork. He could really take a punch and he could deliver quick, hard strikes. Now, we said he was a hard puncher, and he was. There's no doubt about it. The boxers, the sparring partners, the trainers, they all said Sonny hit the hardest of anyone they had seen, fought, trained with.
Yeah.
George Foreman was one of Sonny's sparring partners, and he even said that Sonny hit harder than anyone he ever fought. And he fought some really good guys too.
Yeah, he did.
And he makes a hell of a grill.
He does make him and his other, his kids, George.
Yeah. So Sonny was on this climb, professionally up the rankings. He was getting some good wins, but at the same time, he was getting more and more active with the mob. He was also drinking a ton. And it was around the same time that he got married that he got arrested. And it happened when a policeman questioned Sonny about a stolen cab that was sitting out in front of his house. Sonny said the officer called him a racial slur. So Sonny broke the officer's knee and, bashed his face in.
Just because he could.
Well, he could, and I'm sure he did not like to be called certain names.
No. You can see why he's upset, but Sonny also had this temper.
It's short fuse.
Yes, very short fuse.
Yeah. But he didn't stop there. He took the officer's gun. There were rumors that when police came to assist in arresting Sonny, they broke their batons on his back and on his skull. He wouldn't stop fighting until there were enough men, and I don't know what the number was,
right?
But it was a high number of guys needed to take him down.
Well, we know he can take a hit, many hits.
He went to jail on a 9-month sentence. He ended up serving 6 of those months, but he was banned for boxing for 1 year. And after he got out, the police were all over him. He couldn't even walk down the street.
No, he was not.
Without getting arrested.
Yeah, he was not welcome there.
No. So Sonny had to move his family from St. Louis to Philadelphia. It was in 1958 that Sonny returned to boxing. He was in Philadelphia. He had a new manager who happened to have some mob connections. Now, Gibbs, we can't talk about all the great fights that Sonny Liston had, but we want to touch on some of them.
Well, sure. Yeah.
I think they're important. Sonny's new manager was named Joseph Pep Barone, and he reported to mob bosses Frankie Carbo and Frank Palermo. These were big guys.
Yeah.
And because of his connections, he was able to get Sonny some really good fights.
Well, and that was going to help him start rising up through the ranks.
Yeah, and I think over the next 2 years of his career, he had, these great fights and really had some of the best boxing of his career. He began knocking out tons of contenders. Cleveland Williams, Mike DeJohn. He was just a monster in the ring. Nobody could stop him. So he kept winning all these fights. And his manager, with these mob connections, really wanted Sonny to get a chance at the champion, Floyd Patterson. And there were some people in the boxing world that thought, okay, Sonny can beat Floyd Patterson because he was knocking out people that Floyd Patterson couldn't knock out.
No, Floyd Patterson would go the distance with these people, but yet Sonny was in the ring and out of the ring, in a couple rounds.
But Floyd Patterson was no joke. He was an amazing boxer. It got to the point where Sonny's next fight was the one. If he won that fight, he would most likely get a shot at the championship. But his opponent was given some advice by a man then known as Cassius Clay, later known and most famously known as Muhammad Ali. And Ali told this guy to move around the ring, keep running, keep moving, wear Sonny down. And that's what he did. And the fight went the distance and Sonny lost.
Well, Sonny was a bruiser. He was used to going in the ring, going right at you and just going at your body and knocking you out. He wasn't one of those guys that was used to running around the ring trying to chase you down.
Well, and he didn't have a lot of fights, I don't believe, that went a bunch of rounds.
Right.
So
he didn't need to, right?
He didn't need maybe to be in as good a shape as some other people because he was going to knock you out in the first or second round and then, go drink a beer and have a smoke and be done with it.
There you go.
But even though he lost, he kept his number one contender status. The problem was Floyd Patterson did not want to fight Sonny Liston. Not because he was scared of Sonny Liston, I don't think. I think it was because of the mob connection. And Sonny got really upset about the fact that he couldn't get this shot at the title. So he would hit the town. He was still drinking a lot.
Yeah.
And he would lose his temper. And what happens when you're out drinking a lot and you have a bad temper?
You're going to get in some trouble.
Yeah. And he did. He got arrested in Philadelphia. He got charged with things like assault, resisting arrest, disorderly conduct. He even caught an impersonating a policeman charge at one point. But all of this caused the Pennsylvania Athletic Commission in 1961 to suspend him from boxing. And all of the other state commissions went along with this. So essentially, he was banned from boxing. He wouldn't fight again until 1962. And there were a lot of people in Floyd Patterson's ear saying, don't give this guy a championship match. I mean, President Kennedy, the NAACP, they didn't want this to happen because they thought it would send the wrong message to the youth of America.
Yeah. Why would you let somebody that is a criminal associated with a mob get a chance like that?
To be the heavyweight champion of the world.
Right.
And back then it was huge. I'm not saying it's not big today. I couldn't even tell you who the heavyweight champion of the world is today.
Right.
But everybody knew who it was in the 50s, 60s, even into the 70s and 80s. Everybody.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, in the 90s with Tyson.
Yeah.
And then I think boxing has kind of dropped off quite a bit.
Yeah, I think with that UFC.
Yeah, UFC's taken a lot of its thunder for sure.
Right.
By the end of 1961, Sonny had a new manager. This manager also happened to have mob connections. And his team began an attack on Floyd Patterson's camp, basically saying that Floyd was scared to fight Sonny Liston. And not only that, saying that he was afraid to fight other African-American fighters because apparently he had not fought a lot of African-American fighters. A lot of his fights were with white guys. So they were trying to paint him as a guy that ducked not only Sonny, but African Americans in general, because he thought he would lose. And I think eventually it did get to Floyd Patterson, because both camps set up the match between Sonny and Floyd to happen on September 25th, 1962 in Chicago. And this was a huge night. This was a big fight that a lot of people have been waiting for. A lot of stars attended the fight.
And I think most thought the fight wouldn't go past 5 rounds. And the crowd was split on who the winner would be.
Yeah, well, you got the champ. So there's a lot of people thinking, okay, he's going to win. But a lot of people are betting on Sonny.
Yeah.
Sonny knocked Floyd Patterson out in 2 minutes. So, yeah, it's not going past the 5th round. It's not even making it past the 1st round.
I think he walked into a freight train.
Maybe there's a reason he didn't want to fight Sonny. I don't know. Sonny was the new heavyweight champ of the world. He couldn't wait to get home to Philly, celebrate his win with the city, but the city didn't turn out for him. And this is the thing about Sonny Liston and why he's not revered like a Muhammad Ali.
Right.
The city didn't like who he was. They didn't like who he was associated with. It wasn't like it was a big secret. Everybody knew he was connected to the mob.
Yeah, I don't think they were proud of him.
Right.
You know, they weren't proud of who he was associated with, and how he got to where he was.
And the press wasn't very kind to Sonny Liston. They weren't writing the glowing articles that they had written about Floyd Patterson. No. They were saying, okay, yeah, he won the fight, but he got the fight because of this, and he's still tainted because of all his arrests and the fact that he has these mob connections. It hurt. You know, he should be on top of the world, but he's not. He started drinking a lot again. He got in more trouble with the law. He moved his family from Philadelphia to Denver because he said he just didn't feel at home anymore in Philly. I think he was really hurt.
Well, I think I'd be hurt, right? I mean, if you won you're now the world heavyweight champion, right? And you come back to Philly, which is a huge boxing, right, mecca, and they're not even there to like, hey, no, they don't want nothing. Like you said, they don't want him there.
Right.
So he's going to go to Denver where he doesn't really know anybody, and that's where he feels at home.
He also tried working on his drinking problem, but he had a title rematch with Floyd Patterson in July of 1963, this time in Las Vegas. And it ended up pretty much the exact same way. Sonny knocked him out in just a little over 2 minutes. But again, the reception was horrible.
Yeah, they booed him. Basically booed him out of the arena.
There are not many heavyweight champions who win and get booed. It just doesn't happen. Now, the mob was happy. They've got the heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah.
But the general public doesn't like Sonny Liston. And then in 1964, the next year, it was Muhammad Ali who would fight Sonny Liston for the heavyweight championship of the world.
But that was a strange fight. They went at it pretty good. And Muhammad Ali his eyes started going blurry and you couldn't see. And there was a lot of accusations that Sonny or Sonny's manager put some kind of chemical on his glove and would put that in Muhammad's eyes and made his eyes blur and burn. And it was not good.
But it didn't matter because basically Ali did the same thing that he told the fighter years earlier to do. And he wore Sonny Liston down. And then when the 7th round came, Sonny refused to get off his stool. He said he was done. He quit.
Which I think a lot of people in the boxing community thought, oh, we never really see that. Didn't even get off the stool. He just said,
well, we don't like him anyway. Now we like him even less.
Yeah.
Because we think he's a quitter. Now, Sonny came out later and said he hurt his shoulder. But Muhammad Ali was now the heavyweight champion of the world. Sonny had a right to a rematch, and a couple of them were scheduled. First one got delayed. There were some reasons thrown out, but most people thought it had something to do with Sonny's drinking problem. The next match was supposed to be held in the city of Boston. Boston said, you know what? I don't think we want this fight because of the mob connections. We don't want any part of it.
Which is really strange because you think about the money that we pulled in to this event. They were adamant. We're not having it. We don't want it here.
So they ended up holding it in a small town, 140 miles north of Boston in Lewiston, Maine. The fight happened in May of 1965. And in the very first round, Ali knocked Sonny down. But a lot of people in the crowd and reporters as well said it looked like Sonny never even got hit. It looked like he just went down.
Yeah, it's very strange.
The phantom punch. Now, there were people that said, okay, yeah, he got hit, but not hard enough to knock down Sonny Liston.
I saw the tape, and I would say I don't even think it would be hard enough to knock me or you down, let alone somebody like Sonny Liston.
Really? Because I think if Muhammad Ali even would have looked at me funny,
you'd be down.
I'd just go down. Now, he was not a bruiser. He was not a George Foreman. He wasn't a Sonny Liston. I mean, Ali could hit hard.
Sure.
But he didn't have that type of power. He was just so fast and such a good technician that he combined it all.
He kind of stung like a bee.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
As he floated like a butterfly.
This was a very strange fight. You know, there was controversy over the count and whether the fight was really over or not, if Liston was counted out. But in the end, he was, and the fight lasted under 2 minutes. But I think, Gibbs, this is a fight that a lot of people were very suspicious of, right? They thought maybe the fight was fixed. I mean, when you factor in the mob connections, you're always going to have that.
Absolutely. And you're thinking, it's really strange he went down so fast.
And you had a lot of former champions. I mean, big names. Jack Dempsey, Joe Louis, Floyd Patterson watched the fight and said, there is no way that Sonny Liston got knocked out. It had to have been fake.
Yeah.
I think Ali was suspicious. Like, really not sure if he had even hit Sonny or not, or hit him hard enough to do what happened.
Yeah, he was standing over Sonny and just saying, nobody's going to believe this. And then he looked back at his manager, his trainer, and saying, did I even hit him?
But Sonny denied any accusations that he took a dive for the mob or anyone else. But some years after that, he changed his story and said that he did. But it was because he was afraid of Muhammad Ali's radical Muslim Brotherhood. So when Ali threw a punch that was somewhat close to him but missed, he went down. But then he reversed it again later on, saying, I was just joking.
Yeah, like he was playing with him.
I didn't do that. After the fight, Sonny took a year off and he moved to Las Vegas. He laid low for a while, but then he made a comeback over the next 5 years, and slowly, it took a while, but he worked his way back into contention for a shot at the title. In July of 1970, he beat Chuck Wepner, which put him in line for a title shot to happen sometime in 1971. So Sonny was waiting for his chance at a title fight, but he had a problem. He had developed a cocaine habit over the years, and that problem grew bigger and bigger. So he began selling cocaine to fund his habit.
He would just buy the coke in bulk, bag it up in little baggies himself. He would drive to certain neighborhoods in the Las Vegas area, even the projects. He didn't care where he was. He would just pull up in he had this big old pink Cadillac. And I guess he would just pull up and walk past, even if they had their own drug dealer. He didn't care. He was going to sell that stuff. That's what he needed to make his money to buy his product.
It was like he didn't care who knew. He wasn't trying to hide it.
No.
And he wasn't being very safe about it either.
No.
And he was doing it in a way that caused him to land on the Las Vegas PD narcotics radar. So you had that, but you also had the fact that, okay, he still has some of these connections with the mob. Well, they didn't like that.
No.
They got their own stuff going on. His wife didn't like what he was doing, the drinking, the cocaine. She didn't like who he had become. There were also rumors that he was spending the night and paying showgirls to spend the night with him.
Partying up a little bit.
So I think when you're doing all of that, okay, you do need a lot of money, which is probably the reason why he was selling drugs. You got a showgirl habit, you got a cocaine habit, you're drinking, you got a family to support at the same time.
Right.
And you're not getting paid until you have your next big fight.
Which, it's not going to be till next year. So,
but Sonny Liston would never get that next big fight. It was on January 5th, 1971, that Geraldine Liston returned home. She had been away for the holiday season. She'd been gone for quite a while.
Yeah, I think she left.
A couple weeks.
Yeah, right after Christmas Eve.
And when she walked in, she immediately smelled a very strong odor. She called out for Sonny. And when she walked into the bedroom, that's when she saw him. He was dead, slumped over onto the bed with a broken footstool underneath him.
Yeah, kind of like he crashed down on it.
He was a big guy.
Yeah, he was.
Now, Geraldine reportedly waited 3 hours before calling the police. She apparently first called Sonny's attorney, then she called his doctor, and then eventually the police. Seems like a strange sequence.
I think so.
I don't know why you're calling his doctor.
There's nothing you can do for him now.
Police arrived on the scene and they said it appeared that Sonny had fallen backwards while having a heart attack and broke the footstool. Police found a 1/4 ounce of heroin in a balloon in the kitchen and a syringe next to his body. But they never found a spoon that would have been used to cook it in, or the tourniquet, like the little rubber band that he would have used on his arm. They never found either one of those.
Which is strange.
It's a strange. They did find a 1/4 ounce of weed in his pocket. So the guy had drugs. There's no doubt about that. But the coroner found a needle hole in his arm, and there were traces of heroin in his blood. And as police were putting together the timeline, one of the things they used was the fact that newspapers and milk bottles had been piling up on the porch. And they figured out that by the newspapers,
right,
it probably was around December 30th, was the oldest one. So they used that. They used the condition of the body. And the coroner came out and it said that Sonny died on December 30th, 1970. But he didn't list the cause of death as heroin. He listed it as heart failure and lung congestion.
That makes you wonder why she waited 3 hours, though. You know,
I'm wondering a lot of things.
And then where was the tourniquet? Where was the spoon? And if you're going to get rid of that, why wouldn't you get rid of the syringe and the product as well? I mean, why have either get rid of it all or not? I mean, if you're there for 3 hours, you probably could do some cleanup, I would think.
Well, she must have done something in those 3 hours, right? You can speculate on what that was. I mean, I'm still stuck on, okay, you call the attorney first. What's he going to do?
Right.
You're calling for a very specific reason. It has nothing to do with helping Sonny's condition because he's dead. What's the doctor going to do?
Yeah. I mean, I think the attorney would say, hey, you need to call the police.
Unless you need advice on something else.
Yeah.
There was a report that said Sonny had gone to the hospital in early December complaining of chest pains. Another report said Sonny was in a car accident the week before his death, and the needle hole in his arm was from the IV. Sonny Liston was laid to rest on January 9th at the Paradise Memorial Gardens in Las Vegas, Nevada. It was a very small ceremony.
Yeah.
And there was only one boxer there, and that was his very good friend, Joe Louis.
It's the only boxer that apparently liked him well enough to go to the funeral. This is sad.
But I think there are a lot of questions, right? There are mysteries that surround the death of Sonny Liston. Did he die of natural causes? Did he die of a drug overdose, or was he killed? And I think one of the important things was that apparently everyone who knew Sonny knew that obviously he was a very tough guy, except for when it came to needles.
Yeah, he hated needles.
And there are a lot of people like that. They'll whip your ass.
Yeah.
But they're not taking a needle in the arm.
No.
For nothing.
They run the other way.
And apparently he was like that about needles as well. Doctors, his wife, his trainers, all of them said he would never take a shot.
No, if he needed a shot for something, you better give him like a pill to take that made him drowsy and knock him out. Then you could give him whatever shot he needed.
So when you take that information, that doesn't sound like a guy who would be cooking up heroin and shooting it into his arm on the regular or ever. Really. I mean, if you're that scared of needles, you're probably not shooting heroin. Now, can you take it some other way?
Yeah, I don't even think that was his drug. You know, he had his addiction to cocaine and snorting it, but that was shooting up heroin was not his thing.
There was one report that came out in the media that said Geraldine hadn't heard from Sonny since the day after Christmas. So she called his trainer, Johnny Taco, on January 1st and asked him to check on Sonny. So as the report goes, Johnny goes over to Sonny's house, sees Sonny's car in the driveway, knocks on the door, but he couldn't get in. So he called the Las Vegas PD, who came out, and they were able to get inside Sonny's home. They walked into the house and they noticed that, okay, the house has been rummaged through, stuff was strewn everywhere. There'd been some kind of struggle. And then they found Sonny lying on his bed with a syringe in his arm. He was dead. They told Johnny to leave and not to tell anyone about it. And they actually threatened him, according to this report. If you tell anyone, it's not going to end up well for you.
Yeah.
So he left, told Geraldine he didn't find anything. So when she found Sonny a week later, Johnny was shocked that the police had just left him there. And according to this report, this was a secret that Johnny kept until, essentially his deathbed.
Maybe he was just afraid to get it out there, not knowing what the repercussions would be.
So no idea if that's true or not, but that's one angle to look at. There are a number of other theories. One theory was that Sonny was killed by the mob because they never paid him for taking the dive at his last fight with Muhammad Ali. And Sonny had threatened them that he was going to go public if they didn't pay. Another theory centered around the mob, and this one probably makes more sense, Gibbs, is that in his fight against Chuck Webner, the mob wanted Webner to win. And they told Sonny to take a dive sometime in the early rounds, but he didn't do it. And he won the fight.
He was on that comeback thing, man. He really thought, I'm going to come back on my own. I'm going to get my championship back.
So if that's true and it really happened that way, that would have caused the mob to lose a ton of money. And they don't like that.
No.
From what I understand.
No, they do not.
And this is an interesting story because it didn't come out until 2013. Author Greg Swaim wrote a book about his father, who was a mob boss named John Warjack. His father was wanted by the FBI back in the day. So as his dad got older, and really before his death in 1997, he started to confide in his son some of the things that he had done over the years, some of the things he had witnessed, and he told Greg that Sonny was making the mob money when he was winning fight. But Sonny also needed the mob because they were the ones that were getting him the fights and helping him on this climb to the championship.
Yeah, they were working good together.
But once he started to lose, and especially when he lost the fights to Ali, that cost the mob a lot of money. I mean, Sonny was getting older, right? His time as a fighter was dwindling, which meant his value to the mob was as well. But then he hit this winning streak. He's was rejuvenated for a number of years. But that's when the mob asked him to take the dive at the Chuck Webner fight, and he didn't. And it was at that moment that they decided they were going to kill him. He essentially signed his own death warrant.
Yeah, he defied the mob, and that's just something you can't do.
Warjack said that he and some other mobsters went to Sonny's house, and they watched as a hitman killed Sonny by injecting him with an overdose of heroin.
And that was a pretty popular method back in the 70s that they would use to kill people with, because a lot of people were dying with overdoses of this heroin. So you couldn't just say, it had to be a mob. Right?
Well, it wasn't 2 shots to the back of the head.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, people accidentally overdosed on heroin. So it was much easier to make it look like an overdose.
Right.
So this was something that Greg Swaim had known for a number of years. But for whatever reason, he didn't feel safe in letting it out until 2013. Maybe it's because a lot of the mob's power had dwindled by that time. Maybe the old guys were gone. I don't know.
I'm thinking it's probably that he needed to wait till he knew that They just didn't have the power like they did back then.
And that nobody was going to come after him.
Yeah.
There's another mob story that says Sonny and some top mob guys were hanging out at one of the mob's Vegas hotels. Sonny had been drinking, and for some reason he started making fun of some of the mob guys and especially one of the big bosses.
Which is probably a no-no.
I think that would be a no-no. Apparently he started to brag that he took a dive against Muhammad Ali in that last fight because he was paid by Ali's corner, his team, and he was paid better than the deal that was offered by the mob. And this deal had something to do with the fact that he would be guaranteed a percentage of Muhammad Ali's future winnings. Once he said that, again, mob bosses said, take him out.
Yeah. I don't know if I put a lot of weight behind that one.
I can't see Muhammad Ali giving up a percentage of his future winnings.
Right.
Nah, I'm not seeing that one.
Well, and if he did, why would Sonny have to be dealing $50 bags of cocaine?
That's a good point.
So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali was a great fighter.
Right.
I don't think he needed anybody to take a dive. It doesn't mean, he was going to win every fight that he fought, because he didn't. But at that point in time, there weren't many people that were going to beat him.
No, I don't think, like you said, I don't think he needed to make any deal.
Another theory is that Sonny was killed by drug dealers. And this centers around him working with some drug dealers in the last couple of years before his death, and that he found out, he was tipped off about this big bust of a drug dealer, and he didn't warn them. And I guess he was at this guy's house the day before the bust.
Right.
So once the bust happened, they just naturally assumed it was him.
Yeah. Hey, you were at our house the day before. You must have went and said something. And that's why we got busted the very next day.
So they took their revenge by shooting him up with a bunch of heroin and killing him. And there's one final theory to talk about. And this one is that Sonny was working for a bookie and was collecting debts, right? Kind of like Rocky's character.
Yeah. Kind of like that,
You don't pay up,
I gotta go collect.
you get the left hook. But Sonny wanted to keep a bigger chunk of the money that he collected. They didn't like that. They came after him, shot him up with an overdose of heroin. So, I mean, basically all these theories center around an overdose of heroin.
Yeah. Everybody's thrown in the overdose of heroin at the end.
Yeah. What I think, which is interesting because the coroner didn't rule that the cause of death. But you have to ask the question, how did he have heroin in his system if he wasn't a known heroin user, didn't like needles? Now, did he ingest it in some other manner? I guess it's part of the mystery.
Yeah. And I think you can say, look, we know he dealt in drugs.
We know
cocaine.
he did drugs, yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't mean that's how he died. Maybe he did do some loan sharking, get my money for me kind of a deal, but probably not how he went down. But what probably does make sense to me, if it's not natural, is the mob story. The one where he should have went down as the mob wanted him to during that Chuck fight. And he decided to go for himself, his own victory, and it probably cost him his life. If you want to believe that somebody did this to him.
Just like Bruce Willis in Pulp Fiction.
Just like that.
He was supposed to take a dive. He didn't, and the mob came after him.
And it got bad from there.
And everything went bad real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are tons of different theories that you could talk about, assuming he didn't die of a heart attack.
Yeah, I mean, he was doing coke, and that can give you a heart attack.
But assuming it was, like you said, not a natural death,
right?
His connection with the mob leads me and probably most people to think, okay, if he was killed, the mob was probably involved because, the mob killed a lot of people.
Sure did. Yeah. Yes, they did.
And if you messed with their money, that was a very quick way to get whacked.
Well, yeah. And you certainly couldn't threaten them. They were going to take you threatening them very lightly. Hey, if you don't pay me what I think you owe me, guess what? I'm going to go tell people.
And it really doesn't matter who you are. You could be the biggest, baddest guy in the world. You could be Sonny Liston. You're not going to beat the mob.
No.
But that's it, Gibbs. That's the mysterious death of Sonny Liston. He was a very interesting guy. I will say that, because he was the heavyweight champion of the world. And if you look at most heavyweight champions of the world, they're kind of revered figures.
Right.
This guy was not revered. He was actually kind of hated by a lot of people, mostly because he did a lot of very strange things. You know, getting in with the mob, selling drugs, just things that you wouldn't think a heavyweight champion of the world needs to concern themselves with.
But you know what? He came from a hard upbringing.
Yeah, he did.
And was able to make something, of himself. Maybe not the way that most people would want to do it, but to go from working in the fields as a young kid to being the champion of the world in boxing. Wow. I mean, you have to have skills to do that. Connections are good, but eventually you still have to have the skills.
Oh yeah. Somebody can help you get the fights, but there's still somebody standing across the ring from you that wants to beat the living hell out of you.
That's right.
You're going to have to step up and fight that guy.
Yeah.
We got some voicemails. You want to check those out?
Yeah, let's hear them.
Hey, Mike and Gibby. My name is Elise, and I am still going to work because I am what the government says is essential. I had a suggestion for a case that I'm in Delaware, and there was a case here. Oh gosh, I guess when I was in college, sad case. This girl, Lindsay Bonestall, she was murdered in her apartment, and no one. There was never much clarity as to the motive or anything like that, really. And I've never heard anybody touch on it. I guess not too many cases out of Delaware. So, yeah, I just thought it would be interesting because I've not been able to find anything myself. So, yeah, anyway, I hope you all are well and staying safe, and I'm going to do the same here. Keep your own time taken. Bye.
All right. Well, Gibbs, I've always known that she was essential.
Yeah. Yes, you did. You were saying... I know she's
I said that the other day.
Yeah.
Now, that case I'm not familiar with, but, as you hear her talk, not being able to find things,
right?
That's probably the reason why you've never heard anybody cover it. We'll check into it, but I have a sneaking suspicion that there's not going to be much out there.
And we'd probably run into the same problem.
Yeah, because we do run into that from time to time, but we'll check it out.
Hey, Mike, hey, Gibby. Chris in Utah again, truck driver. I had a case that I wanted y'all to look into. I think it may be better on Unsolved, but it's the case of Kathy Page down in Vidor, Texas. I think her husband's name was Steve. I'm not sure, but I know her dad or the family put billboards up all over the town, and other truck drivers used to ask me, what's all that you can get away with murder and Vidor stuff, going up down the interstate, and I'd have to explain it to them when they, found out I was from there. But it's never been officially solved, I don't think. I think that they always thought that Steve had something to do with it, and that the cops kind of covered it up. But see what you can find out about that. And then there's another case there that happened in Vidor not long ago. Was a friend of mine who shot someone down at a local sand pit, and he's doing time now for that. His name's David Venable. Maybe you could look into that, see exactly what happened. I think it was a drug deal gone bad or something, but maybe look into that one too. Vidor, Texas. I don't have dates for you, but it shouldn't be hard to check on Kathy Page, David Venable, two separate things. Anyway, love y'all. Y'all are definitely getting me through the coronavirus thing. Of course, I still have to work. I'm a truck driver. We don't drive, you don't survive. But love you both. Keep it going. I gotta have something to listen to in here. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Hey, get that load of TP over this way, man.
Yeah. Drop a load of TP off at the studio.
Yeah.
So that case in Vidor with the billboards, that was the inspiration for that movie.
Oh, that movie that
3 billboards outside
yeah,
Ebbing, Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah, I looked up a picture of it, and they basically have a picture of this guy, Steve Page, saying he got away with murder.
Really?
So it sounds like it could be a very interesting unsolved episode. Wow, man, they didn't pull any punches either. Basically said the police took bribes and
they were laying it all out there.
Yeah.
Well,
so definitely check into both those.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. I just wanted to call and say that I was scrolling through my Hulu and they added FX on there. So I was looking through and I came across this documentary called The Most Dangerous Animal of All. And again, it's FX, but basically the guy's saying that he is the son of the Zodiac Killer, and so he obviously knows who the Zodiac Killer is. And so I know you guys are fascinated with that case, and I just wondered if you had seen this documentary, and if not, I would recommend it to you guys. So love the podcast, and I'm from Columbus, Ohio, so shout out to Ohio. All right, good night.
614.
Yeah, 614 in the house, yo.
So I have not seen it, so I can't really comment on it.
I've heard it was good.
Yeah, I've heard it was good too. Now, there have been a lot of people claiming this person or that person, my dad, this person was the Zodiac. I don't know. Yeah. I'll have to watch it.
To watch it and let you know.
Hi, I'm Logan, and I've watched your podcast for a long time, and I just wanted to leave you a voicemail because you have a great podcast, and I love your funny jokes and stuff. Bye.
Logan doesn't mess around. No. In and out.
Quick and easy.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate everybody.
We do.
Leaving voicemails, listening to the show.
You know what I appreciate?
TP.
Yeah. And I appreciate you, man.
Hey, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Right back at you.
There you go.
All right, buddy. That's it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.